Hi YouTube! A while back I got this 2-pack of Monster High dolls to complete my collection of Twyla, and that meant I had this Draculaura left over. I didn't really want her, and I didn't know what to do with her, especially since she has the new style of face and I kind of struggled to work on that face. Obviously, I had to follow the example of my Monster High custom senpais like Doll Fairy, Delightful, Doll Motion, and Sugar Charm Shop, and make a gosh damn cute Pokemon custom. I love dolls, I love Pokemon, this is gonna work out great. Let's do this! One of my favorite Pokemon in terms of design is Mega Audino. She's super cute, super fluffy, and 100% the kind of Pokemon you just want to give a big ol' hug to. She's sweet, she's cute, but she can also kick the best of them, so I decided to make her a kind of cute magical girl style doll, with a flowy jacket whose hood is removable, and the curls in her head to mirror the stethoscope style thingies on Audino's ears. Obviously we prep the doll, we cut off all her hair, pull out the stubble, and wipe off all of the black paint from her head and her face. I'm going to start with her gloves. I used a little snake of 2-part epoxy clay to form the shape of the hem of the glove, which comes to a point. Then I blend it downwards, leaving a bevel on one side to denote the separation of skin and fabric. Then sand the ever-loving stuff out of that sculpt, so that the blend between epoxy and plastic is seamless. I always recommend you wet sand if you can, it reduces the risk of hurting your lungs, so I'm a big fan. Make sure your sandpaper can handle wet sanding if that's something you want to look into. I use a few different layers of yellow paint to paint up the gloves, and then they're done. Next, onto the tail. After attaching some interfacing to plain cotton fabric for stability, I transfer the pattern. To make a bowl, one of the patterns you can use is just a bunch of... I don't know what that shape is called. A teardrop that's pointed on both sides, a rounded diamond. I know there's a word for it, but I can't think of it, and you're all gonna call me an idiot in the comments, but that's fine. I'm not upset by that. But yeah, I cut off the bottom point so that it can sit flat against the doll's back. And I sew 6 of these teardrop shapes together to make a bowl, leaving a hole in the end. I stuff the bowl full of yarn from processing fiber for wigs, and insert these sort of hook shapes I've made into the hole so that I have something to attach to the doll's back. I sew through the 2 holes in the metal so that the tail stays attached to these hooks. Next, we have to attach the wefts. I made a large heap of long wefts, so I wouldn't have to stop and start so much. Then, starting from the middle, I radiate outwards in a spiral of weft and affix it with a blanket stitch. Did that make any sense? It sort of did to me, sort of. Once you get started, you can see the fiber naturally points up and outwards, which is perfect for Audino. Once I'm finished, I use my favourite 2-part epoxy glue to set the tail. Mix it up till it looks like hand cream, fill up the hole, pop the tail on, and it's perfect! For this doll, I decided a wig would work best, since she's going to have magnets that hold her pigtails in place, and if I ever find the positions of the magnets don't work well, I want to be able to change it. So I started by making a wig cap from fabric glue and stretchy fabric. If you want a tutorial on how I make my wig caps super form-fitting and have them basically cling to the head, let me know and I'll get that out for you. Anyway, I basically am making a short bob wig with a fringe, and as not to make this video unreasonably long, I'm not going to detail how I go about that. Feel free to check out the videos in the iCard or the description, wherever videos go, about how I make wigs and style them. To trim down the wig, I use a blade that's meant for hairy faces. I think a cutthroat razor is what it's called. It's very Sweeney Todd. But I don't trim the fringe just yet. I just make sure the hair is nice and neat and nice and short, so it is out of my way. Now for the pigtails and accessories. I use the head with the wig on as reference and sketch out how I want everything to look. I then transfer that info to the individual sketches as well as create a template of a small clay insert I will use to not only attach the wefts to, but also hold all of the magnets so everything can stay in place. I make the inner tubes out of epoxy and attach the magnets with super glue. I ended up replacing these magnets, they weren't strong enough to hold up the fiber. And speaking of, let's start attaching those wefts. I basically use the same principle as the tail. Start at the end, in the middle, and slowly move outwards and downwards, or upwards, depending on how you look at it. I trim the glue of the weft nice and thin, add some super glue, and twirl it around the epoxy tube. Once I get to the top, you can see there's still a visible ring of glue. To get rid of that, we're going to take very, very tiny wefts, and using super glue again, attach them to the base of the pigtail. That's part of the reason I didn't embed the magnet into the epoxy, so that we have that space upon which to build the hair. And as you can see, it works really well. We have a cute pigtail with no visible wefts. Now for the hair accessories. I transfer the pattern onto a second piece of paper, cut it out to make the piece symmetrical, coat it in sticky tape, and then attach it to a round object. In this case, I use a paintbrush. Then we're going to start building up the shape with UV resin. It takes a lot of time and patience since you want to go in nice, thin, even coats. Once you have the base shape down, you can pop it off the paintbrush. I do apologize for not showing this completely. A few random patches of video footage for this custom decided to implode and I couldn't get the demons out of them, so they're basically unusable. Which is why we jumped from this flat, lumpy looking accessory to this super cute one. It's held in place with magnets as well, which are attached underneath the fiber of a weft. Pink to white accessories like this are and adorable. Now onto the shoes. I have this cute pair of apple white shoes that I think will work well, even if they don't match my concept art perfectly. When it comes to shoes, I'm always willing to bend my design a bit, since I know it can be almost impossible to get a pair of shoes for Monster High that match perfectly. Anyway, I carve off most of the apple-esque designs with an X-Acto knife, like the leaves on the heels and the little rivets, and sand everything down to make it smooth. Mark where you want armature wire to go, and then we're going to take some sewing pins and push them through the points we just marked. I go once from the outside and then permanently push them in from the inside so the head of the pin holds it in place. Then place our fluffy wing template, again covered in tape so the resin doesn't stick to it, against the wire. We use more UV resin to build up the shape slowly, and once you've done the front side you have to do the back side so that the needles are encased in resin. I end up switching to clear since I'll have to paint it anyway, and it cures a lot better in larger pools. Then, again, months and months of sanding to get that resin smooth. Once it's all smooth, we can use a nail lacquer to coat everything in a nice crisp white colour. As always, thin coats. Use thin coats for everything. I use a nice thick coat of glossy taco to seal it in. Onto the socks. I initially was just going to paint the socks on since that scalloped hem would be difficult and I thought it would be better around the knees, but the color looked really bad and it just didn't look cute. So like, what was the point? So that all came off and I'll just make fabric socks work. First thing to make happen was a cute scalloped edge. I used my Qaio to cut the shape on a masking tape and position that neatly along the top edge of the sock pattern. Once it's in place, I slam that mamma jamma down and apply a generous coat of fabric glue. Then to keep the glue from looking ugly, I coat that in a layer of glitter. Everything is better with glitter. Once dry, we can cut the nice scallop shape and have a cute clean edge that not only won't fray, but has no hems to boot. But on that note, where we do have hems, we have to go and clip the curves. We do this so that the curves sit flatter and don't pucker as much when they're sewn together. Always clip hems on curves, it will save you a lot of mess. Then we'll iron these clips down because we are going to sew from the right side of the fabric and it will just make your life so much easier. If you're going to sew something from the right side, always iron your hems. The main thing for fabric socks that made me a little hesitant was that I was going to use the same cotton as the clothes, and that would have next to no stretch in them. So that meant we're going to sew them from the right side with a hidden stitch, and they will be permanent. To do that, I start from the top, going back and forth a few times to hold the top part together, and then begin making a ladder stitch downwards. The good thing about a ladder stitch is when you pull the stitch tight, it's hidden from the outside, so it's perfect for what I want here. But it took so much time! After sewing all the toe and such in place, I test it with the shoe, and it looks so cute. I am so pleased with how the sock looks, even if I can never remove it, it's just so cute. Oh, yes! Again, to keep the video short, or at least semi-short, looking at that time signature, I won't show how I made her rompers. It's just a pair of simple balloon shorts gathered to fit with a simple 5-piece bodice, but it's still really cute. A nice, easy, simple piece in comparison to the jacket. So, for said jacket, I tried to dye the fabric myself, and making a smooth, clean, consistent gradient on lots of fabric is hard. I had so many issues with every attempt I made. So I decided I just wouldn't bother with that mess and printed a nice gradient fabric from Spoonflower. However, you can get a really nice unique pattern from dyeing, so I decided to use that method to line the jacket. Basically, I wet the fabric, and using a mixture of fabric medium and watercolor paint, I dab on different shades of pink to make it an almost galaxy effect. It's so pink, I love it. I transfer my pattern to all the fabric pieces, which was 2 pieces for each side of the jacket and 2 pieces for the hood. I used Fray Stoppa and all the pieces to keep them from fraying. I attached the front of the jacket to the back of the jacket on top of the shoulders. I attached the 2 pieces of the hoods together. I attached the 2 sides of the jacket along the spine. It may seem weird since there's some fabric overlap along the bottom, but don't worry, we'll get to it, it's coming. I closed the sides of the jacket from the armpit to the bottom of the coat. And there we have a base coat. Just do all of that again with the lining. The overlap I mentioned before and that you can see here is actually so the tail can stick out of the coat and the coat can still close underneath the tail. Attach the hood lining to the outer and turn it inside out, pressing the hems. So cute! It's like a tiny, adorable assassin. Put the lining against the fashion side of the jacket and attach it all together, save for the area around the collar. Once we reach the collar, I'll attach the hood to the coat with the remaining open sections, and we have a cute coat. I love how this turned out, though I wish I'd used interfacing just to keep the flaps kinda stiff. Here's an easy way to make a bow. Figure out the size you want, cut a rectangle that is the width you want plus seam allowance, by the height you want times 3. Fold the tops and bottom together, right sides in, and sew along the sides. Then turn this little pillowcase inside out, which might be hard with small bows like this. You take a string, make a running stitch through the middle, and tie it off together with fabric. And there you have a cute bow. So, these shoes did not work. Not only were they overall just not a pleasing shape, but the paint kept peeling off. So let's try again with these Iris Clops shoes. I love the pointed toe rather than the round one, so I feel like these will work out way better. I mark where I want to cut slowly with my X-Acto and sand this new cut. Then we repeat the process of adding the armature wire, adding the wings, patching the holes with resin, and painting that white for like 200 coats. I also added pink to the soles for that sort of like Louboutin look, and I personally like adding these sort of realistic details to my customs. So now I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that elephant is the beautiful custom from Moonlight Jewel. Her Mega Audino doll video came out around at this point when I was making my own, and as much as I am inspired by and adore her customs, it was honestly super disheartening I'm sure a lot of you fellow smaller artists can empathize with this feeling, that feeling of having an idea and, pouring all of your passion into it only to find out that some other greatly skilled artist not only executes your idea, but does it like a billion times better than you will ever be able to. Needless to say, I was kind of put off my own custom. I didn't want to finish it at all because, what's the point? She'll never be as cute as Elisa's. But you gotta punch that feeling in the gut and get busy. So that's what I did by trying to paint the face. Here's a tip for maintaining symmetry. Rather than drawing the face one eye at a time, fully, draw one part of the eye on both sides and then move on. What I mean is draw the top line of the eye on one side and then draw the top line of the eye on the other side. Then you can move on to things like the lower waterline. This helps with finding consistencies in symmetry a lot faster, and it reduces visible issues progressively, meaning you won't have to draw full eyes at any point, just little bits. I switched to watercolor paints pretty quickly. I was having issues with the pencils on this head. I think it was because this particular head has been through the ringer once or twice. I draw a second line along the bottom part of the eye to mimic a waterline. Build up colours in layers. I start with brown before using blacks because I feel like it gives the blacks a more natural, realistic undertone, rather than the pure black pigment, which is generally made up of blues. When you're drawing the upper lashes, always count them when you draw them on. That's an easy way to keep things looking symmetrical. Also, I recommend turning the head upside down whenever you can. That's another easy way to spot symmetry issues. At this point, I hated how dark the eyes were, so I painted on some pink to start building the colour again, and began to work in the lower lashes. I draw those in, but I seem to forget to do both sides? At this point, the pastels ain't working on those irises, so let's try something a little more drastic. I used this liquid mask to block off the majority of the face, and then I used my airbrush to paint on a gradient to a really pinkish red. Peel off the mask and clean up the paint, and cool! You've still got to draw some of the upper lashes again, but it came out really well. I add some details using the same red colour, including a pupil and this ring around the eye, which I think looks cute, very Kingdom Hearts. I just keep building pigment, more lashes, more around the waterline until we have this. I think her face up is pretty cute, but I can personally tell that I was disheartened in it. It's not as good as it could be. I'm so sorry, I'll do better next time. Okay, we're on the home stretch here. I used the same technique of layering UV resin to build a base for the puff on her collar. Once I have the vague shape, I attach many layers of wefts in the general curly shape for the little puff. I made the little swirls out of polymer clay, and I'm so sorry to polymer clay artists, I 100% suck at this. This will be very triggering, but I tried! I snip off the excess of the curls and use epoxy glue to attach the curls in the puff to the bow. I trim and style the tail with a curling iron since that makes it so much easier to give that top the nice curly shape. I love how it turned out, it's so cute, but it took hours since I'm really slow and picky. The biggest tip I can give you for trimming hair to make it look natural is to trim into the hair rather than across it. This gives the fibers an uneven cut, but one that we can barely recognize, so to us it looks like it thins out naturally. I use the same basic principle when cutting the fringe, which again took hours, but take the time to make it look the way you want to, honestly. The curling iron helps push the ends of the bob in towards the neck, making it look cuter. Now for the final part of the custom, styling the pigtails. Again, it's more of the same. I have my reference and the accessories handy for scale. I separate the hair out into sections and then I begin trimming. Trimming into the hair, always into the hair, no matter how long it takes, it just looks better. I trim all of the sections like this, except for the last one, which gets curled to make this super cute pigtail. And that's everything! Here's our Mega Audino custom. I even made her a little Audinite, which I imagine she uses like a magical weapon, kind of like the source of her power. Dragon Prince, anyone? Even though I was a little disheartened and she faced a few problems, I still really love how this cutie turned out, since she actually marks my first full Monster High custom doll. Like, I've painted faces before, but I've never done an outfit and shoes and the wig and the whole shebang, and I'm honestly just so chuffed to see a full doll of my own efforts, and I'm really excited to try again. I personally love her boots and her coat. I think they give her such a charming silhouette and she just looks so cute with them. What about you? What do you like about her? And maybe tell me who your favorite Pokemon is in the comments below so we can fight. That's all for this 20-hour long video. Let's see if I can keep the next one a bit shorter. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you do like this video, please let me know by liking it and subscribe if you want to see more, and possibly hit that bell button since YouTube is messing with its algorithm so you might not see your actual subs anymore. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!